Hey guys, it's Tommy Burnett on Magic and Mysticism, the podcast. Today is a very special episode. I'm very grateful and very happy to have my friend and mentor, Kenton Knepper, as my guest. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Magic and Mysticism, the podcast. Starring Tommy Burnett. Where every Friday afternoon he interviews a mystery performer, while they discuss the subject of magic and mentalism as an art form. Today's guest is master magician, mentalist and musician, Mr. Kenton Knepper. So please sit back and get comfortable, as I introduce your host, Mr. Tommy Burnett.
So like I said before, I'm very happy that we have the godfather of mentalism, the creator of so many magic and mentalism effects, books on theory, and we're getting to it right now. Let me introduce Kenton Knepper.
Hi, Tommy. Great to be with you.
You too, my friend. Thank you for being here.
Of course.
Yeah. So, in case there's anybody watching who, for some reason, has no clue who you are, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself? Yeah.
Sure, yeah. My name is Kenton Knepper. I've been performing magic since I was 8 years old and am known around the world as one of the major contributors to mentalism and to magic. Created things like Wonder Words, the Off by One principle, Colossal Killer, Indirection, Anti-Tada, all sorts of different things, silent influence that are now, dual reality, are now things that are common in magic and mentalism. And I do still perform mentalism and a little bit of magic, and I've had very fortunate teachers through my years, and paid them well, and glad I did. That's what I can say. So, yes, yes, they've helped many people, thankfully that way. And the rest of it is I've studied esoteric symbolism and all these different psychologies and things too. So all of that weaves together in my performances and in my teaching.
Great.
Yeah, I have some pretty famous students around the world too, and including you.
I'm getting there. Speaking of, you started in magic when you were 8. I know a little about your history because you told me before. You had your first big stage show at a very early age.
Well, yeah, my first paid show, I was 8 years old. I started magic before then. I started classes. We don't know exactly when, but we're guessing maybe 6. And I did that teacher had me do a lecture on the history of magic when I was 8. So something clicked in my brain and it was off to the races. I did bring a birthday party show, my first paid show, for $5 whole when I was 8 years old. And then it just kind of went on from there. I had teachers that took to me early on because they thought I had promise. And so I ended up on, I had teachers and ended up on their shows as well as my own show. So I had, even as a kid and into my teens, I was on a hypnosis show that my one teacher did, a burlesque comedy magic show, a mentalism show. I had close-up teachers, and I also was on a full 2.5-hour gospel magic illusion show that toured all over the country, and out of the country. So I had a lot of really diverse backgrounds, but all my teachers had certain things in common. They said you had to understand theater, you had to understand psychology, and if I was going to balk at any of that, I could leave right now. I mean, it was that cut and dried. I had to read; it was required. They didn't want ignorant people around, and that was the deal. I'm very grateful they were the way they were because it allowed me to be much better, much quicker, and to have a better understanding of a lot of different things that way.
Yeah. Wow. When did mentalist?
It's hard to say exactly. Like I said, I had one teacher that was a mentalist, but he also did the full 2-hour hypnotic show. And he was also the comedy magician, the burlesque comedy magician. He also had a local TV show, and he was also had a radio show. He was host of, back when radio, you couldn't just waltz in and do a radio show. I mean, you had to have a specific, it was a big deal. So at some point, that kind of blended together. The guy that was the mentalist, my teacher that was a mentalist, was actually he was kind of funny. He didn't like, it was during the late 60s, early 70s. He didn't like the idea of anybody who really believed in ESP or anything, but he liked to do mentalism. I, on the other hand, thought, growing up during those times, well, wait a minute, if you're going to pretend to be reading minds or whatever, maybe you should know something about those people who look into that kind of thing. So I took the other point of view just to see what I'd learn. I learned a lot more. He was very stuck in his ways that way. I had understood, because it was common during those periods of time and all time history before that mentalism was just a subset of magic. If you got like a Tannen's magic catalog back in the day, and we're talking like number 4 or 5 or whatever, right? You opened up like the magic catalog, and there was a section that was mentalism. That's same with Abbott, same with it was just mentalism was part of magic. There wasn't a special separate thing. It was just some magicians also did mentalism. And that meant a lot of them meant cards. I mean, Dr. Jackson, Nelson and Dunninger and Kreskin, and I mean, everybody used cards. So the debates that go on now are pretty funny to me, because I was around watching mentalism really take hold in the States and around the world. And Burgess and everybody used cards. So, that was like a non-issue. It was not an issue to do magic and mentalism. There were plenty of people that were famous names that did both. Dunninger did the linking rings, and then he did mentalism. It is true, it depends on how you present things. But for me, who I am tells people what I'm about. So I can do magic tricks. And they can go, oh, that's really interesting, and that's about something, and isn't that fun? And then I can do mentalism, and they take it very seriously. They don't say, oh, he's just a trickster because he did tricks otherwise. They never think that. That's not what it's about.
Yeah.
So I think mentalism probably came in. Probably the clearest example I could give you is in the Tarbell course in the History of Magic, volume, number 1 in volume 1 of Tarbell. He talked about the history of magic, and mentalism was part of that. And that just made sense to me, that was a subset of it. So, hey, Jeff. Wow, Jeff and Steve, a bunch of friends here. All right.
Yeah.
Good to see you. Yeah. Jeff is a hilarious. There's Jeff's a great performer, very, very talented performer. Steve Wapner's on here, a great performer, and also a great creator. So, nice to see some people showing up like that. So, say hello to all.
I'm hoping Steve will grant me with his presence here one day.
I'm sure.
I've already asked him. And I know he has a baby on the way, so maybe he can help me out. But during your career as a musician and a mentalist and an author, you're also a musician, but I want to get into that a little bit later. Is there like one big highlight Well, a couple.
I mean, it's really hard to say because there's so many things that have happened, over the years. Lots of really great memories, of opening up for certain, names that were popular at the time. The first time you fool, really big, important people, that are your heroes, or that they befriend you because they like how you're thinking. That's always big stuff to me. I still remember. How thrilled I was that Doug Henning was just so excited about Colossal Killer and was working on his own version of it to do at the castle, right up to the point of before he passed. So that just meant the world to me. Look, I'm really fortunate that for whatever reasons, because I think in part because of the way I grew up and because of the way my teachers pushed me, I got into with people that were big names and all sorts of stuff, whether it was close-up or mentalism or magic, because I knew, at least understood enough that I knew what they were talking about and I could keep up with them, or I could contribute my own points of view that were intelligent. And so some of my great things, but wow, I moved to Phoenix, and within like 3 years, Doc Hilford, Mark Strivings, Larry Becker, Dr. Juris, Robert Blumley, me, and God, I'm forgetting a couple other people. Oh, Lee Earl. All of us lived here, just like poof. All of a sudden, it was, and then we all became friends. And even though we were very diverse, to have all of us in one place and all be friends. And I'm looking at Larry Becker thinking, I sold your first book in the magic shop I worked at like constantly, right? And here we are. And he became a mentor and, of course, a very good friend. So, it's amazing how things work if you're prepared enough, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Is there one place that you perform at that is probably the coolest place you've ever performed at?
I don't know. Like I said, I grew up in a lot of people's shows, so we played really big places a lot of times. But personally, for me, one of the great places I loved playing were a couple theaters in Blackpool, and that's because the history there, to be there and go, okay, Jimi Hendrix was like right over here, and this is. There were these big political debates and stuff, and it was held right in this theater where we're doing this thing, and that was great fun. I just really, really loved that, just because of the rich history and being there. Part of that rich history was, I really enjoyed Blackpool. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. Where am I? Sorry.
It's because I hypnotized. You know how? Hey, Tommy.
You hypnotize me?
Yeah, okay. There you go. Much better. Okay. Sorry, folks. Just something that happens around me, and I get used to it. So, all right. Here we go. Got transferred. Go ahead.
So, we've all experienced the pandemic.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were affected by it. A lot of performers were affected by it. How were you affected by it?
Well, the powers that be had already prepared me to start doing things online a year or two ahead of time. So when it happened, I went, well, once again, I was guided to do other things as well. So I had a bit of a buffer. I could still teach online. I could still create. And so forth. However, we were also just on the cusp of going out to do 2 new shows. And we had just done the first opening night of run night of a show, the Sonic Cinema Experience, and which is a show which combines silent film and magic and mentalism and the history of film and magic together, along with all the live music that we play to it. So we had just done that, and then, boom, the pandemic hit, and all the plans to go out on tour with that obviously changed. So that put a big crimp in that. There was also my solo piano show was also a part of the second night of that on a tour. So both those things radically got put on hold. But we've been able to rewrite some of the Sonic show. I've been writing a lot more music. So again, in the long term, it's worked out for us. Our music rep has been able to get more involved and get more avenues, open up to new possibilities of doing things this way. But it's a struggle, for as far as going out and performing, it's very hard to do the Sonic show, for example, to do that just in like a YouTube thing, but we have done parts of it, and it's been quite successful. People really like watching the silent films to this crazy, music that we do, and it's been very poignant. We've been able to make a lot of important messages that way, and it proved out, this could be something that could even work for us as a series down the road. So it all works together. I know lots of friends in Vegas who obviously had contracts that went on hold or got displaced or vanished. But again, so many of my friends have found ways to adjust, to take what they do, make it work on screen. Not an easy thing, especially, if you look like at Misty and Kyle Knight, for example, they're on cruise ships doing big illusions. All of a sudden they're on a tiny screen. But they've done wonderfully with being able to make that work for them. They've worked very hard at it, but they've done wonderfully. My friend Banachek has learned how to do beautiful mentalism on camera. There are ways. There are always ways around things, and it's simply a matter of how do you adjust next? As long as you continue to say there is a way, I just have to find my way for me, then you'll get there. Part of what it allowed me to do is I finally said, okay, I was talking to my business partners and we said, all right, this is the time to finally start training people in silent influence, for the people that are ready. So let's do it. So we're in the midst of doing that right now. So that's great. A big breakthrough and a whole lot of really big things to come with that, now. So everybody has to adjust. Part of the thing is, look, we have these really wonderful tight shots, that we have. You got really big shots. If you wear jewelry and stuff and you have like green screen or blue screen, you have to worry about it because like rings, like they don't show up right, because the blue screen and you take your hand and then they come back. But then you learn to use that stuff, right? So it's always part of the deal, and that's it. You say, look, here's the situation. How do you make the best out of it, right? That's you use what you have at hand, right? So that's what it's about. Here's the situation. What are we going to do with it, right? Ben Simon started. I saw Ben's show early on in the pandemic, and it was great because Ben's very personable, and so if you're very personable, your personality is going to come through the screen, right? And they don't really care as much about what you're doing as much as how you're doing it. So I think that's it. I think you learn to adjust.
Yeah, good point. You've already kind of covered it, but do you have any advice for people who are trying to do the whole virtual thing?
Yeah, part of it is yes. Realize that connecting with people is going to be most important. And really, if you can't do that, I can watch something on Netflix that's probably more entertaining. I just can't. Yeah, So you need to connect with people, right? But if you can connect with people, they're like woohoo, because we're all isolated more than ever. And if I can say, hey, Tommy, you picked a really interesting card. I don't know what it is yet, but I can tell by the way your eyes are that it represents something deep within you. And you have a depth within you most people don't know. And then I start talking about you know, all of a sudden you care about this little card trick, right?
Mhm.
So I think it's more about connecting with people, and if you make honest efforts to connect with people in a show, you're going to do better. It's just, that's what it's about. We need to be connected, and staring at a screen, saying, well, okay, we're at a screen, and we really can't touch or anything, so pick a number between this, multiply it by this, add it by this, and so, oh yeah, you know, you're not connecting. I don't care that you can do that on a screen. The screen isn't my friend. You know, you should be my friend. So the trick is try not to fall into the trap of what tricks can I do that will work on screen. There are lots of tricks you can do that will work on screen. You can come up with new tricks that will work on screen because you're on screen, you know. But connecting with people, that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
That people feel, you know, and when they feel it, then I want to spend time with that person again. You know, I want to spend time with him. The tricks are cool and everything, but I just want to, you know, that's somebody I want to hang with, and I'm willing to buy a ticket for that because I want to hang with that person. You know,
Yeah.
that's what it's about.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
One thing I want from you more than anything else is about using that connection.
Yeah.
I once heard Peter Turner say, he probably got this from you, but I heard him say in a lecture, if I had 5 minutes with a spectator or a participant, and I had to make a choice to either do a magic trick or make a connection, I'm going to make a connection.
Yeah.
And that really hit hard with me. And I mean, studying with you has given me, you know, it's literally taken me from here and brought me up to here. And so I was just going to say thank you.
Thank you.
Right now.
Well, this is it, friends. And look, if you're watching this and you're thinking, well, you know, maybe that's cool for you, Kenton, but that's like theory, and I'm not so sure. And you know, people just want tricks. My friends just want to see a trick. Test it out and find out. You seriously just do a trick, and do a trick that has to be more about them, and see how they respond. And you'll find out really quickly that they'd rather have it be about them than a trick. You know, and signing their name on something is one thing, but that's not really connecting. You know, and connecting via Zoom. Look, man, if you do readings right now, in the midst of your magic and mentalism, you're winning because you are connecting with people. You know, some of the things I've been preaching for a really long time, this is the perfect time to test them out. It really is, because you cannot go out and physically grab people. You can't physically go out and do things that shake them up and make them and scream, right? What you have to be able to do is do that over a screen. How do you do that? You know, you have to work from the inside out.
Yeah. So now we're going to get into what I like to call the nitty gritty.
Okay.
You have coined so many phrases and so many wonderful concepts, and there's no way we can cover all of them, but I'd like to try and cover as many as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those is comes out of your book, Anti-Tada, or Anti-Tada, depending on how you say it. You know, you can't see it now, but I have the word Tada on my wall. Right above it, I have a mirror, and it's to remind me to go beyond the Tada, because it's not about that. And I would love it if you could talk about that concept just for a few minutes.
Sure. So anti-tata, which is how I pronounce it, but nobody does, so it's okay. However you want to do it is fine. Because the whole point about the concept was most magicians and mentalists do things, and their end trick at the end of the trick is ta-da! Like, look at me, ta-da! And what I noticed was throughout history, the people that made the biggest impact were not just the people that did ta-da. What they did was they did something and you felt it, and it meant something meaningful and deep. And for them to go ta-da would be to go, oh, gross, you just, yuck, this wonderful thing I just experienced, I just had, you just cheapened. So I was thinking about all that and how it applied to magic and mentalism. And I happened to be at a ceremony that was a shamanic ceremony. And this particular person I hadn't been around before. I since did work with them many times, but at the time I hadn't done anything with them. And they did this ritual, and it has to do with, I can't talk about all of it, but it has to do with various symbols and flowers and things all put into a nice package of, and then folded many times in this nice package of cloth or paper, parchment paper. And I thought, this is really interesting because everybody's very invested and they're taking their energy and putting their prayers and their ideas and whatever into these symbols, right? And then putting it into this pile together where they're all getting folded up together. And I thought, what does this remind me of? And I thought, it reminds me of the Buddha papers, the gypsy switch papers, right? Where now I'm going to turn the handkerchief over, or the papers over, and open up the other side. And I thought, you could do that, right? You could do this and open it all up, and butterflies would fly out, And I thought, yeah, but that wouldn't be as cool because that would feel like a cheap trick at that point,
Right.
And what did we do with these papers? They're this folded up, bundle of cloth. It went out to a fire outside. In which case, once it was put in the fire, we had to turn our backs to it and walk away because we were not to watch the magic happen.
Wow.
And to turn around and look back was highly disrespectful. And I thought, wow, that's really powerful. And what happened? Nothing visibly happened, right? In fact, we couldn't even watch, right? And I thought, wow, we could learn something from this. So anti-tata was more about how do we create real experiences for people that are magical experiences, that are meaningful experiences for people, without us stomping on those experiences and having to shout ta-da and make it all about me. And that's I'll give you, for magicians and mentalists watching, I'll give you a simple example. Most of you know how to force a card. And if you're a regular person watching this will make no sense to you, and that's good. Okay, so most of you know how to force a card. All right, so you force a card and you go, la, 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 I know your card, ta-da. But if you have a deck of message cards, right? You can get at any metaphysical magic shop or, any kind of spiritual new age shop or anything like that. Or gift shops these days, you get the group of a deck of message cards, and you find out what's going on with the person while you're talking to them, and you put that to the top of and you force them that card, right? Now, that means something because you say, look, there's all these different messages, there's all these different things. You have a particular concern, so let's just see, if there's a message for you in the cards, right? So just take one out and take a look at it, and it's exactly the card that has to do with their issue, right? Wow, that's positive. And what you don't do is go, ta-da, see, I got you to pick the same one. You don't do that. You let them experience, oh wow, the card I chose is exactly what my issue is. Thank you. Thank you. That's much more powerful. So that's the basic idea, generally speaking, about anti-tada. It doesn't mean you do a whole show like that necessarily, although you could. I certainly anymore, when I do mentalism shows, I only do mentalism shows when I know I'm going to be able to do actual good for people. It's that simple. If I don't feel like the majority of the time I can go from performance into points where of actual healing for people on some kind of deep level, I won't do the show. I would just say it's not the right show for me. Can't have me. That's the way it is.
Wonderful. Symbolism is a big thing with you and more with me. Why is symbolism important in magic and mentalism?
Well, what's so crazy is symbolism is like the definition pretty much of magic and mentalism. It's the primary tools of magic and mentalism, and yet we almost never talk about it anymore. And we misuse the symbols because we don't know what they are. It's crazy that we're so uninformed. And the whole point of symbols are meant to help us tap into deeper parts of ourselves and to shift consciousness, to shift your perception and awareness of all life. That is what magicians and mentalists could do if they wanted to. And this is what Carl Jung discovered again, was, wow, I'm dreaming all these weird symbols. They turn out to be alchemical symbols. What do these weird things mean? And then he started drawing mandalas and things and realized all of this shifts my consciousness. He simply rediscovered what old magic and mentalism always knew, which is if you shift and use symbols, you shift people's experience. And we use symbols all the time. We call them props. Just because we're ignorant of what the props mean doesn't mean they're not symbols. They are, we just don't know better. People in my inner sanctum eventually know some of these symbols very, very well and understand props very well. But far, far more than saying, oh, a deck of cards is like a tarot deck and blah, blah. It's not that. It is understanding what is a cup, for example. A cup is receptive. A cup represents the divine feminine, in symbolic terms. It's the beautiful womb, right? It's the opening, receiving gift. And wands represent the divine masculine, right? So what do we do as magicians? I don't have a cup here, unfortunately, but I have a bottle, so it's somewhat like it. So what do we do as magicians? Here's the divine feminine. Here's the divine masculine. What do we do? Look, check it out. Look. It's horrible. It's horrible. Oh my God. But if you understand, wait. The cup is the divine feminine, and a ball is a seed, right? The seed idea. Or, and I'm birthing, it's penetrating one through each other, right, until it becomes in a manifestation. That's the story of the world. The cups and balls are designed to be that, and we pretend not to know any better, or unfortunately we don't know better anymore. So the more you understand symbols, the more you can do things that have subtext, that have more deeper meaning. It doesn't mean the audience knows that consciously, but when you're aware of it, the way you respond to your props will be very different. The way you use symbols will be very different. And the more you do those kinds of things, the more you understand. I'll give you one more example. Colors are symbols too. So if you really understand colors on a symbolic level, a system that's symbolic, then you see people and you see what they wear. And you walk into a room and you see what the room is. And you notice what kind of props people have and what colors they are. And you can tell stories about every one of those things because of the colors they are. I was in a performance in Las Vegas Very, very packed rooms. And Eugene Berger and I were up against a wall at the back of this house, looking at this crowd, trying to figure out the right people to choose for participants for what we were going to do. And performer after performer was going on and picking people and just having horrible experiences and really difficult people. Because they're pretty drunk and pretty rowdy. And Eugene, it didn't matter so much because of what he was doing. And he said, okay, I'm just going to do this then. I'm not going to be bothered, But I was going to do something that's highly participant, active, focused, and they could blow it entirely. So I was looking around the room and said, okay, what are people wearing? What is that symbolic of? And then I found a few people and went, oh, they're wearing this and this and this color and that color. That's going to be the good person for me. That's who I chose. Afterwards, all anybody could talk about, including my peers, were, boy, you got so lucky you got the right person. I didn't get lucky. I knew what the symbols were.
Yeah.
So that's why you need to learn these things. It'll save you many times over.
Yeah, good lesson. Good lesson. I've been using that technique for the past couple of years, and it's been a godsend.
Yeah, it changes everything. Yeah, changes
really
everything.
Yeah,
It really does.
yeah. So I know you use a lot of suggestion, and you teach. Yeah. What? Why is that important in magic and mentalism?
Yeah. Well, look, a lot of times in magic and mentalism, the surface idea is we need to fool people. Okay, we have to trick them. And to be able to do that, we have to get past their intellect, right? Or we have to trick their intellect to get them to use their intellect against them. So we win, okay? The problem is we're fighting intellect to intellect all the time. And, if there's a back doorway to get past the intellect, that would be much better, wouldn't it? And so that's one of the many reasons why suggestion matters, because suggestion bypasses the conscious mind and it allows people to feel more relaxed, and they feel more relaxed and they take what you say and go, let me just enjoy myself, let me just listen to this person, let me just watch and have a good time, and they feel that just like you feel it now, and then they go, oh, that was great. That was such a cool thing, right? And they don't, intellectually you go, well, what happened to them? I don't know, but oh, it was so cool. So that's much better, because otherwise you're playing puzzle against puzzle, right? You have to use the approach, like what Penn does, Penn Jillette, of, hey, this is a trick. It's just a freaking trick, okay? And I'm even going to tell you it's a trick that works with a string. Okay, now watch, But, okay, cool. You fooled me. I don't know how that worked. Wow, that was awesome. You really tricked me with that string thing. Okay, but it's all up here. and the arts, all arts throughout time, affect us because they move us emotionally, right? Mentalists tend to be stuck in their heads. A lot of magicians too. You can tell, because if you think about yourself and you go, oh, whoa, my head's a little heavier than the rest of my body, or then you are stuck in your head. And this is a problem, a very real problem for magicians and mentalists. If magicians and mentalists learn to get out of their head, it doesn't mean don't be logical. You need to be intelligent and logical. But you can also shift to your emotions too. Then you can use both. And that's much more powerful. Suggestion happens on the level that's more unconscious or subconscious, and which is related also to feelings. So it's important to work on those levels so people feel, people don't feel. And in magic and mentalism, we need them to feel the magic back. They've got to feel it again. Because if we don't, what do we get? You know, we're just ripped up. We're destroyed, and we're mad. And we can't take it, and we lash out. And we have to destroy everything in our way. And any person that could be that person, that problem, boy, God, I'm going to go get them. Right? And that's what happens. Stop it. Stop it. And as magicians and mentalists, we need to be able to get back to that, to bring the magic of every single person, even those we disagree with, back. When people feel empowered, when they're in touch with their own being, when they feel their own beingness, they don't want to attack everybody else. They want to be the best of who they are. That's real magic. And we have the ability with magic and mentalism to do that. But to do that, we have to want to do that. We have to connect to our hearts too. That doesn't mean you have to believe in rainbows and unicorns. You know, it means connect honestly with your feelings. And then balance that with your intellect and use both together, you know? And then we have harmony. When you have harmony within yourself, you're going to see it more and more in the world. But without it, you see what's going on in the world. We can't afford that. It's a great way to kill off civilization.
Absolutely.
No pressure, magicians and mentalists.
Are you listening? Are you listening?
Listen, as somebody who teaches people about silent influence, to watch, sadly, how easily people are influenced constantly, far, far against their own intellect and far against their own benefit or good or even the principles they stand for. To watch them all go down the tubes to be used because one or two people know how to use influence is really sad. And I want to see more and more people really understand influence on a deep level and then apply it to bring mankind and womankind up. It's time to lift humans back up, not to keep dragging them back down. The divide and conquer thing has really gotten out of hand.
Yeah.
Okay, so out of the trance, there we are.
So everyone has heard the word misdirection.
Mm-hmm.
But very few people really understand what that really means.
Yeah, part of the problem is we talk a lot about misdirection, and it was Daryl Fitzke that pointed out this is not really true. We don't do misdirection; we do directed attention. And if you did misdirection, you would be very bad because you wouldn't know how to direct people, right? So it's like, look over here. People go, that would be misdirection. That's not what you want. So what we really do in magic and mentalism is try to direct attention. Okay. I started making popular a term called indirection. It existed before me, but it really was never talked about much or explained, and I elaborated on that and tried to make it very, very useful. And indirection is basically, well, for example, okay, like if we have a deck of cards, right, and I and take out a deck, okay, that's good, all right. Now, you don't know what's coming next, right? I mean, we know, but other than that, there's a few things you know. One, I took out a deck, and two, the box is empty, right? I don't have to go, look, and the box is empty. I don't have to do that. So direction would be to say the box is empty and I have an ordinary deck. Okay. Indirection would be I have a deck. Okay, sure. Whatever. Oh, did I tell you about the inside the box? There's a deck. And people go, what? Wait, how did that happen? Well, because you assumed I took the deck out, right? Because if I take a deck out and say, look, we have a deck of cards, and I do this, and I take one card out and hold it like this, right? And turn the rest of the box over and pinch it, right? And I'm not getting anything out of there and going, okay, then now I've indirectly told you this box is empty, right? So now if I do this and, oh, that's your card, and then look, oh, and the deck is back in the box, that seems like a trick. But I really didn't do much of anything, right? Taking a deck out of the box says indirectly the rest of the box is empty. If I show something, like if I had to take a bottle and say, okay, now look, there's nothing in the bottle, I could do that. Or I could simply take the bottle, hold it over a glass, and go. The second is stronger because it indirectly says the bottle's empty, right? If I pour some liquid, and this, by the way, is the fundamental reason for bladders to get created for bottles, vanishing bottles. This is the sole reason, is so you can take a vanishing bottle, pour some liquid out, and then go, which says, oh, the bottle's empty, right? But it also indirectly tells you the bottle is real, right? So indirection is very, very important. It's much better than directly saying, I have here, because the minute you say, I have an ordinary deck, people go, let me see it. I don't believe you, right? If I say, here, and I pull out a trick deck and show the cards and say, memorize the deck, everybody will go, I go, no, I'm just kidding. And now they think it's a normal deck, right? Because I've shown them, so I certainly wouldn't have shown them a trick deck, right? But I didn't. But if to say I have an ordinary deck, that makes me suspicious. So you're gonna have to rewind this and watch that several times, but eventually it'll sink in or get in direction.
You are a wealth of information, my friend. And I keep on learning from you, and I really appreciate that. And speaking of which, if anybody here watching wants to learn from Kenton, I highly recommend it. His website is wonderwizards.com, and he's got plenty, more than a lifetime's worth of stuff on there. Different tricks, different series about magic and mentalism, and putting somebody into trance. Kenton taught me how to put somebody in a trance over a weekend, and I've been doing it ever since. Where before then, I was really scared to do any kind of hypnotic act on stage, and now it's a regular part of my stage act. So I mean, Kenton is a god, and it's no wonder why they call him the godfather of mentalism. However, he is also a very accomplished musician, and I don't know how many people know that about him. So maybe we can talk a little bit about how that evolved for you.
Yeah, sure. Well, music has always been part of me even before magic. So music and magic were always there. They have been absolutely the things at times that have kept me alive. Without music, there are certainly times where I would not be on the planet if it were not for certain kinds of music and certain messages that were positive in music. So music is always important. It's always a way for me to connect to something deeper within myself and to share it with others. And so that's been there. It's ebbed and flowed throughout time in the show. There was a time in my magic show where I had a band that I worked with. That was a live band. There was now we're back to kind of full circle. The Sonic Cinema show is us playing live music for hour and a half, 2 hours on stage, along with visuals and interesting magic and mentalism. So music's always been a part of it. Music is a great expression of symbolism and subconscious communication, emotion, any things that are beyond words. So I particularly loved great music that was, some of it pretty complex, but great music, and also great lyrics that brought people to a higher point of view. And the last thing I thought I would ever do would be to do music that was only like piano music. That to me would be like, it's just instrumental. Even Pink Floyd bores me after a while if it's just instrumental, blah, blah, blah. I would never think in a million years I'd do that. But I also follow where I'm guided. And everything in me started writing all this stuff that was instrumental piano music. And very quickly, people really, really responded to that music. And people felt like, wow, this is really different. I don't usually listen to piano music, but there's something about this that I feel, something about this that changes me, that uplifts me, that brings me to a deeper place within myself. I want to hear more of that. And so it just kind of evolved and took off. A lot of times now, I've recently been doing some symbolic mandalas that go to the music, or other symbolic things on video that go to that piano music. That is meant quite specifically to help people shift and grow and expand and feel better and be calmer and be more grateful for who and what they are. And so, yeah, music is a real power. It's a real power, power of vibrations, not necessarily the vibrations or hertz or whatever they put on the internet. But fortunately, I've had a lot of esoteric training in those things that are far different than what people know out there. So I can literally, I know symbols and play them on the piano. That's allows me to write a lot of music. If I know I need to communicate this idea and it's a really big, expansive idea, I know what scale that is on the piano. So that allows me to write very differently than anybody else. But I'm just grateful it touches as many people as it does. They feel it. They, even if they don't know why, they know they feel it and it changes them. And man, I can't wait to get back out and start really doing it with audiences. You were there at the first big piano thing I did one in Vegas the first time, and then I did the second big thing on the stage that we did for a syndicated show. And, it was it just, people get moved, they cry, they emote, if I see them in the lobby, they hug me, and it's just beautiful that happens, because I'm just sharing my inner world with them, which is where we're connected. At the deepest, innermost place, we're all connected, and that's really what that music's about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that performance. I remember being very moved. I was filming you. It was hard for me to not move the camera because I was very moved. Before I forget, you also have some groups on your website. I should have asked you before if it was all right to talk a little bit about.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Without going into any details.
Sure.
But but it was, I am a member of one of the groups, in the sanctum,
Right.
and it has really opened my eyes and my heart in so many levels.
Yeah.
And would you mind talking about that and your what was it, the silent
Silent influence? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
There are several different groups on the website that you can join. Some are focused really on mentalism, mind reading things. Some are focused on wonder words. If you are new to my work and you want to know where to start, just get the wonder words course and start with that. But the groups, there are different groups, some even on suggestion, but the probably the most famous group is the Inner Sanctum. The Inner Sanctum is really a tour through a whole lot of the works I've done over many decades of mine, but put in a particular order to teach people at a much deeper level. That doesn't mean it's difficult or anything, but you do have to have an open mind. It will expand you in ways that I can't even begin to tell you. But I would say take a look at the students I have, take a look at the names in Magic and Mentalism and how I've influenced them. And that will give you an idea of why this kind of stuff matters. The Inner Sanctum was really meant to take people to a level that I wanted to be able to sign up and go to when I was a kid. You know, I would read Tarbell, and Tarbell would talk about, and then in these schools they did this, and in these schools they did that, and I realized, you know, while people use those terms very loosely, like mystery schools and this school and that school, but that doesn't really mean that's what they're teaching. And I really want to come and learn this stuff. And there wasn't a good place to do that for real. There are a lot of misdirected things, but there weren't any real, so I had to struggle for a long time. Then I found some actual regular mystery schools, which have nothing to do with performing. And then that evolved into, hey, you know what? Here's what you need to be doing. So the Inner Sanctum is for people who are very sincere. You can be a beginner for sure, but you have to be very sincere about magic and mentalism and caring about touching people and caring about expanding your point of view. If you insist on having a very dogmatic, limited point of view, don't join the Inner Sanctum. That doesn't mean we do crazy things that are immoral or anything like that, because we're certainly not for anything like that. In fact, it's quite the opposite. But we want people to expand and be the very best they can be and open to their minds to the magic within them and the powers they actually have. And to take this big, expansive realness that is in you and apply it so that even if you're doing a silly card trick and just laughing and whatever, people sense something more, and that's the idea. So if you've been looking at, I just want to find like magic and mentalism that like touches me on a deep level, or if I'm looking for like the mystical part of magic and mentalism, where do I really get that? If you're looking for symbolism, if you're looking for those kinds of things and how it moves people and how it can change your consciousness as well as others, that's the Inner Sanctum. So the Inner Sanctum is for dedicated people who really, really want to change magic and mentalism and bring back the magic and the mentalism of magic and mentalism, regardless of whatever your personal beliefs are. That's fine, but it's the being willing to be open to expanding and challenging yourself. It's stunning to me to watch so many people go through the Inner Sanctum over many years and just totally change, totally change and become, very well known, who touch people and move people. And, even if the magic and mentalism, there's their side little gig. It's not even a gig, it's just something they like as a hobby, but they're in their Inner Sanctum. But meantime, they're an attorney, or whatever. Man, to watch those people shift is just incredible. So you don't have to be a professional magician or mentalist to love the inner sanctum. You just have to have an open mind. And if you're sincere, if you've been looking for, perhaps if you're some of the rare people that are looking for the spiritual aspect of magic and mentalism, the inner sanctum might also be a place for you. But it's certainly a place if you want to look at subconscious awareness and deeper awareness of magic and mentalism and how to apply it and how to make a real difference in the world with your magic and mentalism, that is definitely the inner sanctum.
Mm-hmm. And can you talk a little bit about silent influence?
Yes, silent influence is a whole nother level. Silent influence is its own training. We interview people to see if we can accept them as students. It's not a cheap thing, so if you're looking for the bargain basement thing, don't even talk to me about it. But if you're serious and you really want to understand influence, and really everybody should, because you're either being influenced or you're being the influencer. And if you don't know how important that is, take a look at the world around you, because whole groups of masses of people are getting moved in all sorts of directions by influence. And some of it pretty obvious and crass, but it still works really well. This silent influence is a little bit about words and some wonder words, but a lot of it is about how to influence people like in a powerful way that is quiet without you saying anything. So imagine performing something and then having people suddenly go, wait a sec, I got to readjust. Wait a minute, let's hold it. Something in me just felt that. What was that? Oh, it's a coin vanish. Well, yeah, but it's not just a coin vanish, right? Silent influence isn't about magic and mentalism, although magicians and mentalists are definitely people that are students in it, but it's meant for anyone who does anything. So if you're in business, it is how to influence people in business. If you're an attorney, it's how to influence people better as being an attorney. If you're an everyday person, if you don't think it's important to influence people around you, then you aren't using all your powers, and you're probably being influenced by others instead. And so in this day and age where people are subversively influencing others to do their bidding, I think it's very important that people know how influence works. I can tell you, I have two business partners. They are used to dealing with big money, so they're very, very aware. Some of my students are people that train people in certain very high organizations and parts of government, or people that have found their way into government. So we're not talking lightweight stuff here, but it's easy to understand. I have broken down giant principles that have taken me decades and decades of work to make it easy to apply. Generally speaking, it's a 9-week course. We meet once a week, and it's for several hours a week, and it will shift everything. Your perception in your life will be radically different after this. I will tell you that. I know many people. Let me put it this way. Let me shortcut it. If you think of me as someone who at least influences magic and mentalism, if you think of me as someone who at least knows what the hell he's doing and has a pretty strong sense of self and understands his own power, I can tell you all of this can be found, and you can learn it in a couple months in Silent Influence. And before that, I was a doormat. I was a person to be walked on. So if that gives you a clue of what it can do for you, that's a part of it. Silent influence is how to influence yourself and then others on really profound levels that will radically shift your view of life and what goes on in the world. And you will be able to start controlling more and more of what your experience is and how you impact others.
Oh.
And that's why we only take certain people. That's why we interview people, because we have interviewed some people. They thought they were being very clever and trying to one-up us and using other NLP techniques on us and all that. And we'd get off a call with them and go, nope, won't let them in. Next, because I'm already watching the effects of the wrong people getting this information. And I want the right people to have this information so they can protect themselves and they can empower everybody else too. So
I have to talk to you about that in private.
yes, we'll talk.
Is there anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to talk about?
I think there's lots of things we could talk about. Earlier we were talking about various parts of influencing people and getting people to think something with principles by indirection and all that. And sometimes I hear from people, they say things like, well, so how do you frame something to make it more important? And framing has become big vernacular now. But framing, the term framing, really got popularized in NLP. So I want to put this little nugget in your consciousness to dwell on and think about a little bit, because framing is like this, right? Framing is putting a frame around something, all right? And that changes what the picture is. So if I have a Mona Lisa and I put a gold frame around it, it's going to pull out some of the gold, right, in the Mona Lisa. If I put a green frame around it, it's going to pull out some of the green hues in the Mona Lisa. That's framing, okay? Labeling is different. Labeling is going up to the Mona Lisa and saying Mona Lisa, and then on the plate it says in parentheses, depressed woman. Now the way you look at that is really different. And if I write Mona Lisa after the affair in parentheses, you'll go, oh, that's what, oh my God, right? So labeling is far more powerful, in my opinion, than framing. So labeling something as something else makes a difference. And I learned this as a very young person when I was doing more mentalism, even in my close-up. And so I'd created this trick, and the trick was a magic trick in which it was only one out of, 12 cards. But it was like 4 piles of 3 cards or something. And they'd use a pendulum and they'd end up on a card, and then that would be what was predicted. And I went, well, look, this is a card trick, right? And it's a ta-da, you pick this card, and I knew it. Okay, well, that's the basic label, right? It's a card trick. I started saying, no, this is about your intuition, and so that's what made it mentalism. I just changed the label. Okay. Later, I said, you know what? This isn't a prediction. Okay, the card that's in there, it's not a prediction. It's this is a target, and I'm going to see if you can hit the target. Now it became about, oh, you're trying to project something to me. That's a whole different thought. The trick has not changed a bit. The labels about what was going on has changed a great deal. So think about labels, because that changes things greatly. There's it's kind of like, let's have a deck of cards here. It's kind of like in magic and mentalism. Well, let's do this, Tommy. Here, hopefully you can see from here. Now you're a magician, so I'm going to do this really slow, so I'm not doing something. I'm just going to riffle down here, and you say stop somewhere. Stop. Okay, I'm going to do this really slow so you can. Let me turn my head because there's monitors. So. Can you see it? Okay.
Yep.
Got it. Okay. Yep. So now this is important because it was a card trick. Here's what I could do. I would take the cards. I would go through there, and I'd go say, let's see, it's. Oh no, let's make it a card trick here. So look, now they just separated into reds and blacks. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, now I'm going to take a bet. Your card's one of the black cards, right? One of the black ones? Seriously? Really? What was your card?
2 of hearts.
Really? Oh, so look, I could go like this. I'd put it in here. If I was a magician, your card would be, oh yeah, there it is, the 2 of hearts, right? That would be cool. Now, that's the magic trick, right? The mentalism version would have been, I wouldn't have asked you the card. I would have said, and your card is the 2 of hearts, right? If I was saying, no, I projected that to you, that's why I went really slow, so you knew I wasn't doing any sleight of hand, because I was trying to influence you deeply to stop at the 2 of hearts. So that, again, so each bit of it is just a label, a way to influence people by changing what the label is. And it makes a big difference in how you see a trick, right?
Right. Yeah, I was going to ask you about framing.
You're going to ask what?
I was going to ask you about framing, but I skipped that question, and you must have.
Yeah, I'm a mentalist, man. It's like what I do. It's like, what can I say? You know, the other thing that's important is, as a mentalist, is you've got to realize like what you think people, will do or will say, and when, right? You want to think about, like right now I can feel your throat, right? It's hoarse. So I could do this and make a bottle appear. You want to be able to know ahead of time what's going on with people, so you can catch it and use it as an amazing moment, right? And that's always part of the deal. And by the way, this is the bottle thing. This bottle appearance, because I do it all the time. I will tell you a short story. A bunch of us were at Johnny Thompson's house. A bunch of us. There was a table of us full of. It was. Let's see if I can tell you now. Bob Massey, myself, Eugene Berger, Simone Marin. A bunch of us close friends. Johnny and Pam, Dave Sandy, and Lance, his friend. Now husband Lance, and some other, just a small group of us, and we were all eating, and talking and everything. And then after a while, everybody started chatting away, blah blah blah. When John and I started talking about magic and mentalism and how mentalists are too afraid to be bold, oh, I can't do that. That's bold, And John went, what the hell is wrong with these people? That's what mentalism is. It's being bold. What's wrong with these people? And I'm going, I don't know, John. I don't get it. And we said, and so we're just going off. And I happen to look out of the corner of my eye, and I see Eugene and like everybody else has slid down to Pammy's end of the table talking to Pam, and John and I are left up here at this other far end of the table talking about mentalists not being bold. We're so upset. And then I looked at John and I said, John, look, we became, new mentalism because what? We grew up doing everything, right? We did all magic, all mentalism, everything. And, both of us worked right doing magic at close-up at bars and stuff and restaurants and all that crap. He said, John, how do you produce a bottle if you're behind the bar? And both of us simultaneously mimed taking a cocktail napkin without saying a thing. We instantly grabbed an invisible cocktail napkin, went like this on the bar top, right? And then went, ta-da, there it is, there's the bottle. Because literally all you do is you mime it, the bar wiping off the bar, and you lift the bottle up from behind the bar and go, duh, that's the trick. But we both simultaneously mime doing this because that's how used to being bold and direct we were. Why? Because it's more practical. It's not because it's hard or difficult. It's the easy way. So my big bottle appearance that's been driving some of my friends nuts is nothing more than that. You're on Zoom. Zoom means you have a bottom line that's really easy to hide. So all I have to do is hold the bottle below the screen, and there it is. Oh, look, it's amazing. Okay, not so amazing now, is it? But that's right. That's literally, if I do this, it's like, holy moly, right? look, my hand appeared too, but you didn't seem to notice that. Right? So I always talk a lot at that point so that people see my hand that's in direction, right? So they always go, okay, his hand's empty while he's talking a lot. And then I go, boom, right? And people, oh. That's why understanding suggestion and psychology and all these things really matter, because it just makes life a lot easier. It just makes it a lot easier to do really cool things.
Yeah. I personally love swimming on a swim because of that research. I can say, and I often do say, now, just so you know, what you see here is exactly what you would see if we were live. I'm not going to go beyond the window, and then I go beyond the window because,
right, because this is the problem in this day and age, and that it goes back to the early days of television, right? And television, where they say, hey, look, in television, everybody went, oh, but it's not live. And that's, yes, yes. When the Masked Magician did it, that required it exactly. This is one of my favorite stories about the Masked Magician was, by the way, the Masked Magician, when people get all upset about that. Yeah, I'm sure it was, yeah. When the Masked Magician appeared on television, it was very funny because the 6½, which was all these famous mentalists, and I were all gathered. We were talking about it way before it ever aired. And we said, well, Valentino has to do this for various reasons, and we know what it is, and that's why, he's probably doing it. But we already knew the whole thing, and we knew who it was and everything else. So when Valentino showed up and it was the Masked Magician and nobody knows, we were just going, yeah, nobody knows. Whatever. So we used to watch that show as a joke, right? We thought it was our cartoons. And then I'd start going to work at doing close-up, and people would go, what about that Masked Magician? Doesn't that upset you? So I finally went, I have to answer this. So what I said was, you need to understand pros, right? Watch the Masked Magicians because it's our funnies. It's our animated cartoons. We watch his explanations and roll over the floor laughing. It's hilarious what he tells you. And then people will go, you mean he's lying to us? I go, oh yeah, no, you're not taking seriously, are you? It's supposed to be funny. And they go, oh, I'm so upset. And then just slowly clients started bailing watching the Masked Magician. So it was a great way to deal with that. But one of the things I point out is the forklift is one of my best examples, because the voiceover says, sorry, that's the only way it can be done.
Yeah.
And I went, yeah, the forklift. That's the only way you can levitate somebody, a forklift. So I said, you know how they always say like that thing? I said, go watch any other magician live, any magician, and watch. There won't be a forklift, and they'll be way away from this. It won't be like that at all. And they go, oh, that's right. And go, yeah. They're just lying to you. They're making up stuff. So that slowly took the pressure off of stuff for magicians. But yes, that's my favorite line. Sorry, it's the only way it can be done. Yes, the levitations can only work with a forklift. Sure. Oh my God. Oh yeah, sure. Okay. I do.
We're 3.5. Would you give us all a real treat and perform something for us?
Yeah, I assume you're saying that for everybody else, so they know what you were thinking, because I already got that. I said, sure, I will.
I know you know.
Yeah, sure, I will. So yeah, I want to show you some. In fact, let me take this. I want to show you a little something, because this. Thanks. This is about the importance of who you are right now, and your influence on the world, whether you know how to influence people or not. You do just by being. And I want you to really remember that. So here's a little symbolic reminder. A lot of things right now might look up in the air. It might look dangerous. It might even look a little, forked. But what I want you to think about is this. What you hold in your mind changes outer reality. For example, this might not seem like a lot, but it starts in the small way, like, you know what? I'm not sure that silverware looks right. Maybe something's wrong with it. I don't know that I like that. It might not be so perfect. If I start thinking about that enough, it might really not be so perfect. In fact, I can see like it looks a little dark there. In fact, maybe it looks a little ugly and kind of getting bumpy. I don't think it looks so good. It's distorted a little. And the more we think about something, the more we see it as our reality. And we see it in the world, and we can convince others that our twisted up version of reality is real because it starts to become real. And if we spend our time going, oh, here's what's wrong with the world. Here's what's so sad about the world. Here's what's all messed up. These people, those people, oh, not like me. I mean, people. And those people and the way they think, and them, not me and not us. And pretty soon, as I look at more hatred and more upset and have a more and more skewed verb, just like that life, that verb, that idea of the world starts to warp everything in the outer world. And pretty soon, my skewed perception, even if it's totally made up on wrong ideas and just junk other people have told me, if I hold it in my mind, I'm going to experience it as truth in the outer world. And pretty soon, the outer world's going to look pretty ugly. And look, no longer very useful, is it? So, don't think that your thoughts, the things you put in your head, the things you dwell on, don't matter, because they do. What you dwell on dwells on you and on the rest of the world too. If you want the world to straighten up, start with what's going on within you. And if you'll do that, I promise you, the outer world will straighten up too.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kenton. I owe you so much, and having you here today is a real blessing. And if you would just stay for 1 minute, I want to talk to you a little bit after the show.
Sure.
So, thanks again for.
Thank you, everybody. It's great to hear everybody and see some of you on other levels. And Tommy, it's always good to see you too. And just please, people, use your inner abilities because they're real. Use them to help the world. It needs it. So please, watch your mind. Watch what you allow in it. Watch your heart and what you allow into that. And heal yourself so we can heal everything else. Really needs our help right now.
Yeah. Thank you, Kenton.
Thank you, my friend. Great to see you.
You too. So that is another episode of Magic and Mysticism. Next Friday, which is our usual time, we have my good friend and fellow student of Kenton and friend of Kenton, Edward Underwood. So hopefully he can talk a little bit more about these sonic experience and magic as well. And until then, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Take care.